Hey guys, welcome back. Today was an outstanding day. It was the rubber band effect that we have been talking about over the last few weeks. We knew that capital would snap back into this sector because the fundamentals are just too strong. Did we think it would come back, or did I think it would come back as quickly as we did this week? Probably not, but I sure did like it because we watched our portfolios bleed over the last five sessions as retail panic sellers told us that the AI trade was dead. Today was our validation. Our conviction stood tall, and we believed in the fundamentals of this sector, and today was validation day for each and every one of us. We didn't sweat the 17% sector dip because we knew the data told us the selling was completely artificial, and the fundamentals of the memory titans were unchanged. They were as strong as ever. Today, the institutional whales, they stepped out of the shadows. They swept the order books clean, and they triggered a massive structural snapback across the entire memory complex. This isn't a speculative retail bounce either. It was a coordinated, high-conviction, institutional block accumulation. Tonight, we're going to get straight into the tape. We're going to look at the performance of the memory titans. We'll look across all four of them, Micron, SanDisk, Western Digital, and Seagate. Look exactly how they performed. We're going to break down the exact footprint of what the institutions today and what they did today. And we're going to analyze the path, the high stakes path to $1,000 threshold that Micron is tracking right now. And we're also going to look at that $2,000 milestone that SanDisk was just about to pass in the after hours right now. We'll take a look to see where it is. I think it's going to get through $2,000 tomorrow a share. And finally, we'll map out the precise order flow mechanisms or mechanics, that dictate exactly what happens tomorrow morning at the opening bell. But let's jump into the data. Let's talk about what we saw today. If you guys haven't had a chance to do it already, though, make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe today. For all the hard work that I've been doing tracking this sector, today was an outstanding day for each and every one of us. If you're invested in the memory sector, if you're invested in tech, if you're invested in the connectivity wall, the memory wall, this is a channel that you need to follow. This is a channel that you need to subscribe to. So if you haven't done it yet, hit the subscribe button now. All right, guys, let's jump over and take a look exactly at what we saw today. We'll start off with Micron because it was a strong day. It was great to see this stock moving in the right direction again. We knew it's been suppressed for reasons that were unnecessary. We got pulled back last week because of the kind of the misunderstanding or the misinterpretation of the Broadcom earnings. We saw it got pulled back a little bit from Oracle last night. We saw the CPI have an impact on the stock. Nothing changed with these fundamentals from earlier this week to where we are now. Essentially, capital just rotated back in. I think we trimmed some of the positions already to account for the SpaceX IPO we'll see later this week. So capital rotated back hard into Micron and rotated back hard into the memory titans, the memory sector today overall. But you can see that Micron was up almost 12% in trading action today. $104 a share. We just closed under the 996 level overall. So 995.87. You can see at the intraday high, if you look over to the right, we closed pretty much right at the high. If you look in the pre-market right now, a little bit of pullback. This actually was going the other way. About an hour ago, so Micron was up over $1,000. This is about $1,008 a share. So we're seeing a little bit of swing in the after hours right now with some of the memory titans, but 0.5% down, $4 down. That doesn't worry me at all. It's great to see this stock back up where we are. Let's get it back over the $1,000 level tomorrow. Hopefully this kind of helps few of you relax out there that have bought these shares recently. Maybe you bought it in the 800 level. Maybe you bought it even into the 900 level overall. We're starting to see some bull run again with Micron getting back to the positive green. Let's see if we can hold it on Friday with a lot of the distraction with SpaceX tomorrow as we head into the weekend. It'll be a really strong sign to see this stock continue to be green. But if we look over to the right, you can see Western Digital. And if I just pull that up, we'll see what Western Digital today. Western Digital is up 8%. Another strong performance in the memory sector. $39 gain we're seeing in the after hours, moving back in the right direction. 1.5% up, over $8 up. Right now, the stock is at $537.50. Still not towards that 52-week range we talked about. We saw not that long ago, over $600 a share, but the stock is moving positively again. And then Seagate, one of the other hard disk drives, the storage kings that we talk about, had a strong day. Over 6% growth, over a $52 gain today. Closed just over 868 a share. In the after hours, it's up about another 0.5%, about $4 a share right now, trading at 872. I've got to pull up the other alpha of the group besides Micron, which was SanDisk. SanDisk had a phenomenal day today. I mean, almost a 15% growth, $238 a share. It pushed 1881, almost 1882. And if you look in the after hours right now, it's up over 1900 a share. It's moving. It was moving even more. Like I said, we're seeing a little bit of swing right now, but the stock has pushed a new 52-week high. If you can see on the side, it closed pretty close to the 52-week high. But when we gap up tomorrow morning, when the stock opens up and the market opens up, it will set a new 52-week high for SanDisk. It'll be over 1900 a share. The question is, can we push towards 2000 a share with SanDisk? Will we be able to break that $2,000 barrier? If we drive down here, we know the price targets are aligned to that. Okay, just take a look at the price targets that have come through. All 3 of the 5 you see on the screen here at the beginning of this month. Look at Susquehanna, $32.50 for a price target. Bank of America, $2,100. Mizuho, $2,200. So there is room remaining to go in this stock, even as quickly as it has moved. We know that SanDisk is a high beta of this group. It moves fast. So it has been the alpha of the group with regards to just kind of raw, pure movement, just ability to drive percentage change and dollar change overall. Micron's done a great job as well, but SanDisk definitely was the champion today overall. Almost a 15% gain, $238 on the board. Let's take a look at the candle patterns that we saw for both of these stocks, because honestly, they both are incredibly impressive. And what you're looking at here is the 5-minute candle chart from Micron. Guys, both of Micron and SanDisk chart, when you see it, you're going to be blown away by just the sign of institutional conviction that we saw with the stock today and how they traded overall. It was just a sight to see. I mean, this is a beautiful chart that you see on your screen right now. If you can look at where we gapped up from the beginning. So this was where we ended. I'm circling right on the screen, where we ended on Wednesday, where we started right on Thursday. You can see kind of had just a small gap up, but we did see just a nice kind of sign of conviction, kind of accumulation to start the day overall. The volume was high below. RSI wasn't horrible, kind of stayed in that just above the neutral level. Now, we definitely got hotter later in the day, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But the technical pattern that you see on your screen here, it reveals a highly disciplined institutional kind of trend, a trend day overall. You know, after that, a morning push that we just talked about, the stock didn't experience a typical retail fade. Instead, it established a rock-solid baseline, as you can see, and it formed a textbook ascending triangle pattern. It consistently put in higher lows while repeatedly testing local resistance at the upper bound. And I want you to take a look at kind of the definitive moment for the day, the definitive breakout overall. It's right here. Look at this candle right here, this 5-minute candle. This was right about, I think, 1:30 or so in the afternoon on the East Coast. That volume was a massive breakout overall. It was a isolated volume spike that you can see that was over 205,000 shares that traded hands in a single 5-minute interval. That massive bar completely eclipses the surrounding volume. This is not retail momentum that you see on your screen here. This is a huge institutional block algorithm or an automated gamma program sweeping through the ask price to clear out a major institutional order, completely tapping the short sellers who over-leveraged themselves during the 5-day dip. Following that midday surge, the volume normalized but remained structurally elevated, as you can see. In fact, it even started to get a little bit higher as towards the end of the day, when we started to see that real conviction with the stock. When it went on a run, after that massive surge, it really went on a run in the late afternoon session over here, the last couple hours of the session overall. It remained structurally elevated, and the stock, it just moved into this stair-step, continuously higher pattern with zero meaningful retractments into the close. This relentless buy pressure, it did push the RSI, as you can see it below. It pushed it into an extended kind of overbought condition. It is right now peaking at that 76 level. But in a weak or distributed heavy market, this RSI would flash a warning sign. But on a high conviction institutional accumulation day that we saw today with Micron, An embedded RSI above 70 simply indicates absolute buyer control. Algorithms are refusing to let the stock pull back, forcing the shorts to cover and drag the price to the day's high of 996.77. Now, let me jump over and take a look at SanDisk because it was a very similar pattern, as you can see. Another amazing day of just strong institutional conviction. You can see that gap up again here where we ended on Wednesday, where we jumped up on Thursday. A very similar pattern. I think the technical alignment here is pretty identical to Micron, but maybe just a bit more exaggerated. I would say SanDisk put in a relentless grinding pattern. You can see on your screen all day long. It was moving in an upward fashion. It established a mid-morning consolidation shelf before launching into a vertical late afternoon expansion. Most importantly, though, look at the very end of the chart. SanDisk closed right at the absolute peak of its daily range. It closed right at just about 1881 before expanding straight through the 1900 that we're seeing in the after hours now. Let's see where it is. Let me jump back up where we are. So we're at 1912. So it expanded significantly beyond where it closed the day. Let me jump back over that. So you can see that is just a strong sign overall. And when a stock exhibits this specific candlestick structure that we see on the screen here, closing at an absolute high with zero late day profit taking, it proves that the institutional buy programs are completely price insensitive. They have a strict mandate to accumulate shares before the trading week closes, completely shrugging off the noise overall. So guys, those were two just tremendous candle charts. I hope you can agree with me that the conviction that we saw with the stocks today, it was amazing to see. We haven't seen it for a few trading sessions. In fact, I saw earlier today, I wrote down that Micron, I wrote down my notes. Let me look, 17%. It's dropped 17% over the past 5 trading sessions. So to see it make all those up today with the strong move that it has, and I think it has more room to get up over that 1,000 share point again, was just awesome to see. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Drop your sentiments below in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the day from Micron and SanDisk overall. But the massive turnaround that we saw, it is being driven by fundamental realization on Wall Street, that they're realizing that the underlying memory cycle is actively accelerating. And the recent breather that we have seen over those last 5 trading sessions is actually a really healthy sign for the sector. So I want to pull up an article, unpack the mathematical upgrades that are hitting the institutional desks right now, because let me pull that up. We saw Wolf Research drop an article today on Micron overall, on the memory sector overall, but you could see what they said. They said this semiconductor stock has more than tripled in the year, but Wolf Research sees another 36% upside overall. A few things that I want to call out. You can see in the key points that Wolf raised its Micron forecast to reflect an approximately 45% increase in memory pricing in the third quarter and stronger pricing trends through 2026. The firm also raised its calendar 2027 projections for Micron, citing higher than expected pricing for high bandwidth memory. Wolf now forecasts Micron will generate $226.5 billion in revenue and earn 135 earnings per share in 2027. So with all of that information, you can see in the highlighted part below that they have raised their price point for Micron from $550 to $1250 overall, implying a upside potential of 36% from where the stock is trading today. That 36 potential, it is all based on how they're modeling DRAM prices. They're modeling DRAM prices to skyrocket 200% this year and expand another almost 18% in 2027, fueled by the insatiable demand and appetite for advanced AI servers, where we are seeing that growth move exponentially faster than supply. And because of that pricing leverage, like I said, what I called out earlier in that last key point, that Wolf is forecasting for the calendar year of 2027, that Micron will generate a staggering $226.5 billion in revenue and an earnings per share of 135. So we just have to stop for a moment and put that in perspective. For many of you that have had Micron like I had in your portfolio for a while, we know that in its last completed fiscal year, which is 2025, Micron reported $37.4 billion in revenue and an earnings per share of just about $8.30. So now we're talking about a near 15-fold explosion in earnings per share power in just a 2-year horizon, just over a 2-year horizon. Yet despite this hyper growth matrix, Micron currently trades at a forward PE multiple of just 9.4, sitting comfortably in the cheapest decile of the entire S&P 500. And this same structural re-rating is playing out with SanDisk as well. We're seeing the same type of move with SanDisk. Analysts are re-rating. I showed you those price targets overall, how they're moving. I mean, Susquehanna 32.50. So while some are cautious still, some analysts are cautious, like Morningstar. They argue that memory remains a commodity-oriented business where supply will eventually catch up. I think so many analysts are starting to now move into the right mindset. They're starting to realize that the boom-bust cycle is gone, that memory should be re-rated. It should be looked at completely different. It is the backbone of this infrastructure build-out overall. The smart money realizes that the old boom-bust commodity, that cycle, guys, it is dead. And let me show you an example of that, because this hit the article, and I think it's the strength for SanDisk overall. So let me pull that up and we can walk through it together. But you can see Zach's put up, can SanDisk's new business model reduce the dependence on NAND volatility? And I'll scroll through and highlight a few things. But you could see in the paragraph I have highlighted, the strategy is gaining traction as SanDisk signed 3 NBM agreements, which is NBM stands for, it's their new business model. So it's long-term agreements overall. They signed 3 of these during the third quarter of fiscal 2026 and added 2 more in the fourth quarter of fiscal 2026. Collectively, these contracts represent $42 billion in minimum contractual revenue commitments, backed by a financial guarantees exceeding $11 billion. The agreements already cover more than 1/3 of the company's expected 2027 bit shipments, providing the level of demand certainty that has historically been uncommon in the NAND market. Those agreements, that $42 billion in minimal contractual agreement with backed by over $11 billion in hard financial guarantees, these contracts already cover, as the article says, more than 1/3 of SanDisk's entire expected fiscal 2027 shipments. It's providing an unprecedented level of demand certainty that we haven't seen before in the memory sector. This is why Cantor Fitzgerald raised its price target for SanDisk to $2,900, stating that the AI memory trade is still only in the early innings overall. So what happens tomorrow at the opening bell rings? What should we expect with Micron and SanDisk? This is where I'm going to lay out my exact tactical playbook for how I'm looking at the stocks based on the live order flows and the liquidity mechanics of today. Tomorrow, we have to admit, though, is going to be a highly complex trading session because we have a massive cash draw with the SpaceX IPO. It's going to be hitting the financial markets tomorrow. Let's see what impact it has on the memory sector, what impact it has on the entire market overall. But alongside that, we have a heavily compressed derivatives timeline because the market is closed next Friday. And we know the third Friday of every month is the options expiration date. Well, the 19th is a federal holiday. So we're going to have a compressed schedule tomorrow. We're going to see that options expiration date move up 1 day to Thursday, June 18th. It's going to have a bit of an accelerated wall overall for Micron and for other stocks. The option chain is already wound incredibly tight. So tomorrow's opening print, it very well could set the entire trajectory for the options in the stock overall. In the after hours, we saw Micron cross the $1,000 barrier, got up to 1,009. So we're going to track 2 precise operational zones for Micron at the opening. First, if Micron continue to keep momentum going in the after hour, and if we can open over 1,000 tomorrow, and let's say maybe in the first 15 to 30 minutes, we can cross that $1,009 level, that peak level we saw in the after hours. If we can do that, I believe that the $1,000 level will flip from a resistance ceiling to a structural floor. This will trigger immediate automated market maker buying, and it will force shorts to cover, and it will drive a direct mechanical run for the stock. Now, the second option we have for Micron, if the open sparks a brief kind of profit-taking, a retail profit-taking dip or a minor liquidity shakeout, your line in the sand with this stock is right at that 980 zone overall. Any orderly backtest that bids inside that pocket on low declining volume is a clear institutional re-entry point. If it holds 980, the structural integrity of today's breakout remains perfectly intact. And if we shift over to SanDisk, we know SanDisk has been having a little more momentum right now in the after hours. So I think we have to say, if SanDisk right out of the gate, right at the opening bell, if we can see it firmly hold that 1900 level during the morning volatility crash or rush that we see in the morning overall, if it can hold that, it's a strong sign for the stock. If SanDisk prints above 1900 and holds it and begins forming a consolidated shelf on steady volume, the stock is positioned to make a direct assault at the $2,000 milestone before the closing bell tomorrow. The shorts are completely trapped here. They will be completely trapped with SanDisk. With no overhead supply to rescue them, any forced buying will rapidly accelerate a vertical climb for the stock. So guys, for me, the bottom line is clear today. The tape proved exactly that showed us exactly what we thought and improved our thesis that we've been talking about this week. The smart money never abandoned the AI infrastructure stack. They merely waited for the leverage hands to clear out, and they stepped up to the moving averages and they executed massive block sweeps to lock in their positions. Dumping your core structural positions during a brief low volume algorithmic pullback was a retail trap this week. The institutional footprint is now plain and clear as day. So moving forward, let's keep our eyes locked on the key levels that we just talked about and outlined for these stocks. Let's manage our risk with discipline and focus strictly on the volume profiles for Micron and for SanDisk at the open. I want you to drop your comments below. What do you think Micron and SanDisk will finish the day at tomorrow? Will Micron break the $1,000 barrier? Will SanDisk be able to pass through that $2,000 milestone overall? And make sure you hit the smash button, or you make sure you smash the subscribe button below so you don't miss any of my future updates, any of my videos. I drop one like this every single day. So I hope you guys have a great night. I hope you're enjoying the World Cup that started today, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.